What do you get when you cross South African red wine casks with heavily peated Springbank? We get Longrow Red 10-year-old Malbec cask. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back to Whiskey on the West Coast. My name is Matt, and today we're going to be talking about Longrow Red. Now, if you're not familiar with Longrow Red, you're probably still familiar with Longrow, Springbank's heavily peated whiskey. Now, the concept behind Longrow Red is just simply what happens when you take that heavily peated Longrow spirit and then you go ahead and you age it in red wine casks. Specifically in this case, refill Malbec barriques from South Africa. And so this particular Longrow Red, it's the refill Malbec 10-year-old. They went ahead and they aged Longrow for 7 years in Ex-Bourbon casks. And then they moved it to refill Malbec barriques for an additional 3 years to get to our 10 years of maturation on this particular one. It was bottled a little while ago. I've had this bottle for some time. It went through our apartment fire. It's survived. It's got a little dust and soot, which seems appropriate for Longrow on the label. But this was bottled in 2020, and it was bottled at cask strength of 52.5% ABV. It's non-chill filtered, it's natural color, everything you would expect from the Springbank Distillery. This was the 8th release in the Longrow Red series, and it's probably the 3rd that I've tried personally, and I really enjoyed the Tawny Port cask Longrow Red that came out. I believe that one was 15. It was either the 15 or 11-year-old. Either way, really enjoyed that one. That one was just such a sweet barbecue treat delight. I really loved that. But this one is actually from a sample that I had sent to me. I figured it was a great chance to try this whiskey before I crack this bottle, because I have so many bottles open right now. I really need to start finishing some of them instead of cracking new ones to see what's there. But I'm just always so excited to try new whiskeys, as I'm sure you guys are. I need to bring you guys my thoughts on said whiskeys. It's tough not to crack them and then actually follow through and finish them quickly. So I thought this was a great opportunity to do so. And so thank you to Hexagonal Crank for sending me this sample of Longrow Red. That's fantastic. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy this review. So as I mentioned earlier, Longrow is made at the Springbank Distillery, and we know with Longrow that it is not 2.5 times distilled like Springbank. It's not 3 times distilled like Hazelburn, but in fact, it's only twice distilled, and it's peated to around 50 ppm, as far as I know. What we also know is that the barley that they're putting in the kiln, that they're actually having the peat smoke dry, the barley, it spends up to 2 days, 48 hours in the kiln, which seems like just a heck of a long time, as opposed to the varying lengths of time that they have for Hazelburn, which actually only gets hot air, gets no peat smoke, so it's unpeated. And Springbank, I think, only gets about 6 hours of actual time with peat smoke, and the rest is hot air. So Longrow is made in a very much different way from the rest of Springbank's products. So that's really interesting. But I don't want to wait any longer. I want to get to this whiskey, and I want to start nosing this. So Longrow Red Malbec 10-year-old. Right away, sweet and sour and like acidic notes from that red wine. It's like barbecued meat, grilled pineapples with like, oh gosh, the red wine's really coming through. So if we're going along barbecue themes here, like there's like a red wine reduction or sauce or something along with that, but like cold smoked meats. It's earthy, but not particularly funky for me on the nose, but a lot of red wine sweetness, ton of sweetness. Oh man, blueberry too, actually. So that's nice. Blueberry, pineapples. I always get melon or cantaloupe with Longrow. Doesn't matter if it's Longrow or if it's for instance, Campbeltown Lock. With Campbeltown Lock, I picked up on that too. I also get that with like Kilkerran heavily peated, so maybe it's just anything that's coming from Springbank or Glengyle that's really heavily peated. I get that cantaloupe and melon sort of vibe. Honestly, this nose is super, super mild, super approachable for something that's cask strength. There's no sharpness. There's no jagged edges to this. There's no spikiness. This nose is just begging to be drank. And honestly, oh man, I'm picking up some like industrial and like leather tones now. Yeah, really interesting nose so far. Pausing here for a moment. Thank you for watching this far, guys, before I move on to the palate. I really appreciate all the support. If you can go ahead and like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and consider becoming a Patreon member. I've started a Patreon page very recently where I'm posting extra reviews and extra tastings. I'm gonna have a Ben Romack Polish Oak single cask review posted on there soon, if not already when you see this video. I'm also gonna have a virtual tasting I took part in with Claxton's Independent Bottlings, hosted by Kensington Wine Market. I had some thoughts about those whiskeys, what I thought about them, because it was my first time ever trying Claxton's products. So if any of that interests you, or you just want to support the channel, consider looking for the link in the description on this video. Yeah, diesel and leather barbecue. Oh man. Yeah, I need to go ahead and take a sip. Okay. Oh man, bursting with sweet fruits. Oh, wow. Sweet barbecued fruit, pineapple on the barbecue grill, strawberries, raspberries, maybe some sour dark fruits too in the finish right now with blackberry, leather, tobacco still. Oh man. See, this is why I never see Longrow Red on a shelf or on a website for too long. It's not just because it's Springbank, but because it's so good. It's such an approachable palate. I feel like I could pour this type of whiskey for almost anyone, and they'll enjoy it. The only people that might not enjoy this is people who are very much into classic sherried or ex-bourbon cask Scotch whiskey. Those are the only people I think that might be like, yeah, I don't do red wine casks. I mean, I guess there are quite a few people who love single malt whiskeys who just don't jive with wine ski, let's say. But I feel like any one of my friends, if I poured this for them, they would jump all over this. You can tell I'm a bit peat blind because I'm only mentioning the smoke and the phenolics now. There is definitely a smoke that builds through the back of the palate into the finish. The peat smoke is almost like a diesel fume smoke and funk as you go along, which I am getting funk from this. I didn't get it on the nose. I'm getting it on the palate. That's awesome. Love to see that because I'm a big fan of the Campbeltown funk. Picking up a bit of it here. It's just a little bit obscured by the wine and the peat, so a bit of distillate character possibly being covered up, but for a good cause, I would say. Oh. Red wine, oak influence, tiny bit of chili pepper, sweet Werther's candy, like butterscotch toffee in there too. Like, I do like that this had 7 years of bourbon cask maturation before going over to the wine cask, because you are getting, again, that butterscotch Werther candies, bit of vanilla, and you do still have some of that distillate character pulling through. If this had 10 years in a Malbec cask, it probably would have been pretty brutal. I also think it helps too that these were refill Malbec barriques, and so that's almost like one of the things they're doing a lot with wine casks now is they're rinsing them. They're almost washing them out to clean them up a bit, to make sure that you don't get a lot of like sulfuric notes, a lot of off notes, and that the red wine doesn't take over the whole whiskey. I don't feel like this whiskey's been taken over by this wine cask in the same way as other wine cask whiskeys I've had. I've had an Aaron 14-year-old Pinot Noir cask that is all cask. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it was all cask influence. This is still Longrow, which is really beautiful to see. On the finish, like, again, the smoked meat, cold smoke, earthiness, some of that funk. I'm going to take one more sip. I'll give you my final thoughts, and then we'll move to price, what the price was at the time, what the price probably is now, and maybe a score, and talk about who this whiskey's probably for. Yeah, funky malt, smoke. Coastal element actually shows up on the back end here with something more mineralic, almost going towards like a Rockets candy, a Fun Dips sort of thing. If you're from North America, you'll probably know what those are. I'm not sure what they have in the UK or elsewhere that are kind of like that, but they're kind of like a chalky type of sweet and sour candy. Funky, smoky finish, maybe like smoked sockeye salmon a little bit, just without the fishiness. Yeah, not really super refined, but in all its elements, really pleasurable and enjoyable. Yeah, I'm getting along with this. I'm so jacked to have been able to try this. Again, I'm probably not going to crack this bottle yet. I'm probably going to wait for a good day. I couldn't resell this because of the condition it's in, the label's peeling and all that. And I've never actually in my entire life sold a bottle. So I'm not holding out in that way. I need to finish some bottles, which is a good problem to have. I'm not complaining. So please don't take it in that way. Before I get to the score, let me know, have you ever had a Longrow Red? Have you enjoyed them? If so, which is your favorite? If you've had multiple, maybe give me a ranking. I think in particular, if you visit Springbank, if you take a sample from the Longrow Demijohn, I think a lot of these Longrow Red casks wind up in those Demijohns, because I tried that Longrow Demijohn, and one of my biggest regrets is not bringing back a Demijohn bottling from Springbank of that Longrow, because it was incredible and an incredible value, and it's along these lines. So that's my tip. If you're visiting Springbank, pick up that Longrow Demijohn. If it's a darker color and you like Longrow Red, you're probably going to really enjoy that. First score, I'm probably going to give this, revisiting this now, I'd say this is an 88, and it's only an 88 because I'm not getting the type of complexity with this that will keep me engaged for, like, I'm not going to be entranced with this glass for an hour. I'm not going to be digging through, finding notes, pulling notes out for a really long time. It's a super enjoyable whiskey and super approachable, but when this came out, it was $150 Canadian. What I have to pay for Longrow Reds now, if this came out today, it's probably going to be like a $220, $230, $40 bottle of whiskey. And at that point, I don't think it's like a value that deserves additional points. I think it was priced appropriately at $150. I don't think if this came out in 2023 that it would be $150 Canadian. That said, really enjoyable whiskey. I want to start including like dram face style, malt review style whiskey marks, and if I did that in this case, it would be getting probably an 8 out of 10. I would buy this for $150 if I saw it on the shelf. I think if you see it on a shelf, if you did, I'd say pick it up. The reality is you're not going to find Longrow Red 10 Malbec on the shelf now, and so I'm really sorry that this review comes so late, but I hope you find it interesting. I hope it's instructive towards what to expect from Longrow Red bottlings, and whether or not they're enjoyable. Maybe you had this before and this just brought you back, and in that case, I'm really glad to do so. Who is this whiskey for? It's for a Springbank fan. It's for anyone who's a fan of heavily peated whiskey and who wants to explore red wine cask finishes. Regardless, guys, thank you so much for joining me once again. Again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I hope you really come back for more in the future. Until then, from the West Coast, Slange.